My name is Amanda Mason, and I am 29 years old. My older sister Chelsea has always been the golden child in our family, perfect in every way that I supposedly was not. When I quit my corporate job to start my own business last year, I hit some financial turbulence. I made the mistake of asking Chelsea for a small loan during a tight month. Instead of helping, she turned my temporary setback into the family gossip, making sure everyone knew her little sister was a financial failure before her extravagant wedding. Before I tell you what happened at that wedding, drop a comment letting me know where you are watching from, and hit subscribe if you have ever had to deal with a judgmental family member. Growing up in Fairfield, Connecticut meant maintaining a certain image. Our parents, Catherine and Edward Mason, worked hard to give us an upper-middle-class lifestyle in a neighborhood where appearances mattered almost as much as your zip code. Our colonial-style house, with its perfectly manicured lawn, represented everything about my childhood. Structured, polished, restrained. From the moment Chelsea was born, 3 years before me, she seemed to inherently understand the unwritten rules of our family. Be exceptional, but never boastful. Be ambitious, but always ladylike. Succeed, but make it look effortless. Chelsea excelled at everything she touched. By 3rd grade, she was reading at a high school level. In middle school, she was class president 3 years running. High school brought a cascade of achievements that my parents proudly displayed in our living room showcase. Valedictorian medal, homecoming queen crown, tennis team championship trophies, early acceptance letter to Princeton framed in sterling silver. I still remember my mother saying, "Chelsea just knows how to apply herself," while sighing at my report card with its mix of A's and B's. Not bad grades by any standard, but they paled in comparison to Chelsea's perfect academic record. Where Chelsea was calculated and strategic, I was creative and spontaneous. She joined debate club to bolster her college applications. I joined the art club because mixing colors and creating something from nothing made my soul feel alive. Chelsea practiced piano for exactly 45 minutes daily because it demonstrated discipline. I wrote songs and played guitar in my room for hours because music helped me process my emotions. Our parents never explicitly said they favored Chelsea, but their actions spoke volumes. They attended every single one of her tennis matches, but frequently missed my art exhibitions because they were just hobbies. My father bragged about Chelsea at his law firm dinners while I was introduced as our other daughter, Amanda. My mother, Catherine, would say things like, "Amanda marches to her own drummer," with a tight smile that suggested this was not entirely a compliment. When I dyed a purple streak in my hair during sophomore year, my mother took me aside and asked, "Why do you always have to make things difficult?" As if my self-expression was a deliberate act of defiance rather than simply being myself. Chelsea mastered the art of the backhanded compliment early on. "That outfit is so brave, Amanda." I could never pull something like that off, she would say at family gatherings, making sure our aunts and cousins heard. Or, "Your painting is really interesting. It is nice that you have a creative outlet for your feelings." The subtext was always clear. My choices were questionable but tolerated. After high school, our paths diverged further. Chelsea attended Princeton as expected, majoring in economics and international relations. She joined the right sorority, made connections with the right people, and graduated with honors. I went to Rhode Island School of Design, embracing the freedom to fully explore my artistic talents away from Chelsea's shadow. During those college years, the distance helped ease some of the tension. We would see each other during holidays and manage civil conversations. Chelsea would inquire about my little art projects while I would ask about her internships at prestigious firms. It was a carefully choreographed dance of superficial interest. After graduation, Chelsea landed a job at a top consulting firm in Manhattan, where she met James Williams. James came from old money, attended Harvard Business School, and worked as an investment banker. He was, in every way, the perfect match for Chelsea. Tall, conventionally handsome, ambitious, and from a good family, as my mother repeatedly mentioned. When Chelsea announced their engagement at last year's Thanksgiving dinner, my parents practically burst with pride. My mother immediately launched into wedding planning mode, talking about booking the country club and which society families needed to be invited. The wedding would be the social event of the season, an opportunity to showcase the Mason family's success and status. The wedding planning brought all our old dynamics rushing back. Weekly family calls became strategy sessions where my input was neither sought nor welcomed. Chelsea selected bridesmaids from her sorority sisters and childhood friends who shared her polished aesthetic. I was to be a bridesmaid too, of course. After all, appearances mattered. And excluding the sister of the bride would raise eyebrows. Just try to follow instructions for once, Chelsea told me when she handed me the bridesmaid dress specifications. A pale pink monstrosity that looked terrible with my complexion. When I suggested a slight alteration to make it more flattering, Chelsea dismissed the idea immediately. The dresses need to be uniform, Amanda. This is not one of your creative projects. As the wedding date approached, Chelsea became increasingly controlling. Every detail had to be perfect. The right flowers, the right band, the right photographer. The guest list grew to 300 people, many of whom Chelsea barely knew but were important for networking purposes. The budget expanded accordingly, with my parents taking out a second mortgage to cover expenses without complaint. Meanwhile, my own life was taking an unexpected turn that would set the stage for a confrontation that had been brewing for 29 years. After graduating from Rhode Island School of Design, I landed a position as a junior graphic designer at Harlow and Bennett, one of the top advertising firms in New York. It was the kind of job that had thousands of applicants for a single opening, and I had been ecstatic to receive the offer. For the first 2 years, I thrived on the creative challenges and fast-paced environment. My designs won 2 industry awards, and I was promoted to senior designer faster than anyone in company history. I worked 60-hour weeks, poured my heart into every project, and built a solid reputation in the industry. By year 3, I had moved into my own apartment in Brooklyn, a small but stylish one-bedroom that I decorated with vintage furniture and original artwork from friends. I was making good money, had started an impressive retirement account, and even helped my parents with some home repairs. Chelsea seemed mildly surprised by my success, occasionally making comments like, "Who would have thought your doodling would actually pay the bills?" But as I approached my 5th year at the firm, something began to change inside me. The excitement of new projects was replaced by a gnawing emptiness. I was designing award-winning campaigns for products I did not believe in. Fast fashion brands destroying the environment. Processed food companies targeting children. Weight loss programs promoting unhealthy body images. Each morning, I found it harder to get out of bed. Each evening, I brought work home and stared at my computer screen until midnight. My creative spark was dying, suffocated by corporate demands and ethical compromises. In a moment of clarity during a particularly soul-crushing project for a pharmaceutical company, I realized I had a choice. I could continue down this path, earning good money but slowly losing myself, or I could take a risk and build something meaningful on my own terms. 10 months ago, I handed in my resignation letter. My boss Laura tried to convince me to stay, offering a substantial raise and more creative freedom. But my mind was made up. I wanted to create a design studio that worked exclusively with socially responsible businesses, nonprofits, and educational institutions. "You are making a huge mistake," Chelsea said when I told her about my decision over brunch. "Do you know how many people would kill for your position? How are you going to pay your rent? Have you thought this through at all?" I had thought it through. I had saved enough to cover 6 months of expenses while building my client base. I had a solid portfolio and industry connections. What I had not anticipated was how challenging it would be to establish a new business during an economic downturn. The first few months were promising. I secured contracts with 3 small businesses and a local nonprofit. I converted my second bedroom into a home office and established a routine that balanced work with self-care. I felt alive again, energized by projects that aligned with my values. Then came the setbacks. One client went bankrupt, owing me thousands in unpaid invoices. Another drastically reduced their marketing budget due to unexpected financial troubles. A promising contract with an educational startup fell through when they decided to go with a cheaper option. By month 7, my savings were dwindling faster than anticipated. I cut all unnecessary expenses, canceled streaming subscriptions, and started cooking all my meals at home. I took on small freelance projects that I would have previously declined, just to maintain some cash flow. By month 9, I faced a difficult decision. My lease was up for renewal, and the landlord was increasing the rent by 20%. I simply could not afford to stay. With a heavy heart, I found a much smaller studio apartment in a less desirable neighborhood and downsized my possessions. Moving day was a low point. As I looked around at my belongings packed in secondhand boxes, I questioned every decision that had led me to this moment. Had I been foolish to leave a stable job? Was Chelsea right about me being impractical and irresponsible? That same week, I lost my biggest remaining client when their company was acquired by a larger corporation with their own in-house design team. Suddenly, I was facing a month where my income would not cover even my reduced expenses. After a sleepless night weighing my options, I swallowed my pride and called Chelsea. It was a Tuesday morning, and I knew she would be at her office, probably already on her 3rd conference call of the day. "Chelsea, do you have a minute to talk?" My voice sounded small even to my own ears. "Amanda? This is unexpected. I am in between meetings. What is going on?" Her voice was crisp and professional. I took a deep breath. "I hate to ask this, but I am in a temporary financial bind. I lost a major client unexpectedly, and I have some big invoices that will not be paid until next month. Would it be possible to borrow $3,000? Just until these payments come through. I promise I will pay you back with interest." The silence on the other end of the line stretched uncomfortably. "I see," Chelsea finally said. "Well, this is what happens when you make impulsive decisions without proper planning. I warned you about this, did not I?" I closed my eyes, fighting back tears. "Yes, you did. And you were right. But this is temporary, I promise. I have signed contracts for work starting next month. I just need a little help bridging the gap." Chelsea sighed dramatically. "Let me talk to James and see what we can do. With the wedding expenses, we are watching our budget carefully, but I cannot have my sister getting evicted, can I? I will call you back tomorrow." "Thank you, Chelsea. I really appreciate it." The next day, Chelsea called back and said she could transfer the money by the end of the week. I was immensely relieved and spent the next few days applying for every design opportunity one could find to ensure I could repay her quickly. What I did not know was that Chelsea had been busy sharing my financial troubles with everyone in our family circle. The first hint came when my cousin Brooke texted me, "Hey, heard you are going through a rough patch. Let me know if you need anything." Then came a call from my Aunt Pamela. "Amanda, dear, Chelsea mentioned you are struggling. Your Uncle William and I would be happy to help with groceries if you need it." The final confirmation came from my mother, who called sounding distressed. "Amanda, why did we have to hear from Chelsea that you cannot pay your rent? Your father and I would have helped you. Are you eating properly? Chelsea says you might be skipping meals to save money." I was mortified. What I had shared with Chelsea in confidence had become family gossip. She had not only told our parents, but had apparently embellished the story to make my situation sound even more desperate than it was. Later that week, I received a group text from 3 of Chelsea's bridesmaids, all offering to donate their old business clothes to me for job interviews. Women I barely knew were pitying me based on whatever Chelsea had told them. I called Chelsea immediately, my hands shaking with anger. "Why are people suddenly offering me charity? What exactly have you been telling everyone about me?" "Amanda, calm down. I simply mentioned to a few people that you are going through a difficult time. People want to help. There is no shame in accepting assistance when you need it. There is a difference between asking my sister for a private loan and having my financial situation broadcast to everyone we know. Do Mom and Dad think I am homeless or something? Because that is how they sounded on the phone. You are overreacting as usual. I was concerned about you, that is all." Maybe this will be the wake-up call you need to get a real job again. The wedding is in 8 weeks, and frankly, I am worried about how you will afford the pre-wedding events. Not to mention an appropriate gift. I hung up, seething with frustration and humiliation. In that moment, I made a decision. I would not take Chelsea's money. I would figure this out on my own. And I would prove to everyone that I was not the failure Chelsea was making me out to be. The day after my infuriating call with Chelsea, I received an unexpected message from Zoe Hernandez, my closest friend from college. We had stayed in touch, but had not spoken in a few months due to our busy schedules. Zoe had gone into tech after graduation, working for several successful startups before landing at a venture capital firm specializing in technology investments. Amanda, long time no talk. Are you free for coffee tomorrow? I have something interesting to discuss that might be right up your alley. We met at a small cafe in my new neighborhood. Zoe looked as vibrant as ever in her stylish but practical outfit, her curly hair pulled back in a simple ponytail. So good to see you, she said, hugging me tightly. How is the independent design life treating you? I gave her the abbreviated version of my situation, leaving out the humiliating details about asking Chelsea for money. It has been challenging but rewarding. I am just navigating a temporary cash flow issue at the moment. Zoe nodded sympathetically before leaning forward, her eyes bright with excitement. Well, what I am about to tell you might help with that. But first, I need you to sign this. She slid an NDA across the table. An NDA? What is this about, Zoe? I am working with a new tech startup that is about to emerge from stealth mode. They have revolutionary technology, serious venture backing, and absolutely terrible branding. When I saw their mock-ups, I immediately thought of you. This could be huge, Amanda. After signing the document, Zoe revealed the details. The company, Meridian Technologies, had developed an AI-driven platform that could dramatically improve renewable energy efficiency. They were weeks away from a major public launch and desperately needed a complete brand identity overhaul, marketing materials, website redesign, and presentation decks for investors. The timeline is tight and the work is extensive, Zoe explained. But they have budget approval for $80,000 for the complete package, with half paid up front. Plus, they're open to offering equity as part of the compensation. I nearly choked on my coffee. $80,000? That is more than I made in my first year at Harlow and Bennett. Because your work is worth it, Amanda. I have shown them your portfolio and they are impressed. The only catch is the timeline and the confidentiality. Everything needs to be completed in 6 weeks, and you cannot tell anyone what you are working on until after the public launch. 6 weeks. That would put the completion date just before Chelsea's wedding. I thought about the poetic timing and smiled. I can make that work. That afternoon, I had a video call with Meridian's founders, Jordan Williams and Alicia Ramirez. They were brilliant engineers with a world-changing vision, but admitted they were clueless about branding and marketing. We clicked immediately. And by the end of the call, I had a signed contract and a promise that the first payment would be in my account within 48 hours. The next 6 weeks were the most intense work period of my life. I converted my tiny studio apartment into a creative command center. The walls were covered with sketches, color palettes, and typography samples. I worked 16-hour days, fueled by passion and the knowledge that this project could change everything for me. Jordan and Alicia were dream clients, trusting my expertise while providing clear feedback. I created a brand identity that communicated both cutting-edge innovation and environmental responsibility. The logo represented connection and renewal, with colors that evoked both technology and nature. As the project progressed, Jordan and Alicia became increasingly excited about the results. During our 4th week of collaboration, they invited me to their office to meet with their lead investors. We want you to present the brand strategy yourself, Jordan explained. Nobody understands it better than you, and frankly, you articulate the vision better than we do. The presentation went better than I could have imagined. The investors, seasoned veterans from Silicon Valley, nodded approvingly throughout my explanation of the strategic thinking behind the design choices. One of them, Gregory Bennett, approached me afterward. "Impressive work, Amanda. You have managed to make complex technology feel accessible and exciting. Are you interested in working with other companies in our portfolio?" By the end of the 6th week, I had delivered everything promised in the contract, plus additional materials they had not even realized they needed. Jordan and Alicia were ecstatic with the results. "This exceeds all our expectations," Alicia said during our final presentation. "We would like to offer you an ongoing retainer for $20,000 per month to handle all our design needs as we grow, plus the equity package we discussed." I could hardly believe my ears. This was more than financial recovery. This was vindication and opportunity beyond what I had imagined when I left my corporate job. The final payment from Meridian hit my account 3 weeks before Chelsea's wedding. With my financial situation not just stabilized but transformed, I decided it was time to prepare for the wedding in a way that felt true to my newfound success and self-confidence. I still had not told anyone about the Meridian project due to the NDA, which meant my family still believed I was on the verge of financial ruin. Chelsea had not mentioned the loan again, presumably because she thought I was too proud to accept it after our argument. Little did she know that I now had more in my bank account than she probably did in hers. With a week and a half before the wedding, I took myself on a shopping trip to find the perfect outfit. Not the bridesmaid dress, which I would wear for the ceremony as required, but something spectacular for the reception. After I was no longer obligated to wear the unflattering pink monstrosity Chelsea had selected. At a high-end boutique in Manhattan, I found it. A stunning emerald green silk dress that fit me perfectly. Simple yet sophisticated, with architectural details that showcased my curves without being inappropriate for a wedding. At $3,000, it cost exactly the amount I had almost borrowed from Chelsea. The symbolism was not lost on me. I complemented the dress with subtle but expensive jewelry, a pair of handcrafted Italian leather heels, and a small designer clutch. The total cost of my reception outfit was more than I had spent on clothing in the past year combined, but I considered it an investment in my self-worth as much as in my appearance. As I stood in the boutique fitting room, looking at my reflection, I felt a sense of calm determination. This was not about showing off or seeking revenge. It was about reclaiming my narrative and refusing to be defined by others' perceptions. The woman in the mirror looked confident, successful, and entirely herself. That was the person I wanted my family to see at the wedding. The plan was taking shape in my mind. I would arrive at the ceremony as expected, perform my bridesmaid duties with grace, then change into my new outfit for the reception. Not with a grand announcement, but quietly returning to the celebration as my authentic self. The subtle approach would speak volumes. What I did not anticipate was how events would unfold to create an even more dramatic statement than I had planned. The wedding week arrived with a flurry of activities and obligations. As a bridesmaid, I was expected to attend every pre-wedding event, from the final dress fitting to the spa day to the rehearsal dinner. Each gathering was an exercise in restraint as I listened to Chelsea continue to reference my supposed financial troubles. 3 days before the wedding, the entire wedding party gathered at the country club for the rehearsal dinner. The venue was exquisite, with crystal chandeliers, white rose centerpieces, and gold-accented place settings. No expense had been spared for Chelsea's special day. I arrived wearing a simple but elegant black dress from my corporate days, with minimal makeup and my hair in a sleek bun. As I entered the private dining room, I noticed Chelsea watching me with a slightly disappointed expression, as if she had expected me to look more obviously impoverished. "Amanda, you made it," she said, air-kissing both my cheeks. "I was worried you might not be able to afford the Uber here." She laughed lightly, making sure her comment was just loud enough for nearby guests to hear. I smiled pleasantly. "I managed to budget for it. Congratulations, Chelsea. Everything looks beautiful." Throughout the cocktail hour, I mingled politely, answering questions about my work with vague but positive responses. Business is evolving in exciting ways, I would say. Or I am focusing on more meaningful projects these days. During dinner, I was seated at a table with distant relatives and a few of James's colleagues rather than with my parents or the main wedding party. Chelsea had orchestrated the seating chart, of course. As we ate the 5-course meal, I overheard snippets of conversations about me from nearby tables. Such a shame about Amanda's business failing, my Aunt Diana was saying to my Uncle Philip. Catherine is worried sick about her, but you know how stubborn she can be about accepting help. I kept my expression neutral and focused on my plate. But my resolve strengthened with each whispered comment. After the main course, I excused myself to use the restroom. As I approached the ladies' lounge, I heard Chelsea's voice from inside, along with the high-pitched laughter of her bridesmaids. "Wait until you see what she is wearing to the wedding," Chelsea stage whispered, her diamond earrings catching the light as she tossed her perfectly styled hair. "She asked me for money last month to make rent. Can you imagine showing up to your sister's wedding when you cannot afford groceries?" Her bridesmaid Nicole giggled. "Is that why you put her at table 19 with all the random people?" "Well, I can hardly seat her with the family when she might ask my father for a loan between courses," Chelsea replied. "Besides, she will probably leave early anyway. She told Mom she might not be able to afford the wedding gift she wanted to give us, so she is probably embarrassed." I had never actually said anything about not affording a gift. That was a complete fabrication, and it stung more than the other exaggerations. I waited until they left the restroom before entering, taking a moment to compose myself in front of the mirror. The reflection showed a woman who appeared calm, but inside I was seething. Not just at Chelsea's gossip, but at the realization that this pattern had existed our entire lives. Chelsea building herself up by pushing me down. When I returned to the dining room, I discovered something that pushed me over the edge. My mother was showing everyone at her table photos of Chelsea's academic awards from 20 years ago, while my father regaled another group with stories of Chelsea's accomplishments at Princeton. Later, as the dinner was winding down, I approached my parents to ask about the seating arrangement for the wedding reception. "Mom, Dad, I noticed I am not seated at the family table for the reception. Is there a reason for that?" My mother looked uncomfortable. "Chelsea thought it would be better this way, dear. You know how particular she is about these things. She wants certain people at the family table for networking purposes. And her own sister does not make the cut?" I asked, trying to keep my voice steady. My father patted my arm dismissively. "Now, Amanda, do not make a fuss. This is Chelsea's special day. She gets to decide how she wants things. Has it occurred to either of you that Chelsea has been spreading rumors about my financial situation to everyone who will listen? That she is deliberately trying to embarrass me?" My mother's eyes widened. "That is not fair, Amanda. Chelsea is concerned about you. We all are. If you would just take the job offer your father's friend mentioned." "I do not need a job from Dad's friend. My business is doing fine." I could not tell them exactly how fine due to the NDA. But their automatic assumption that Chelsea was right and I was wrong felt like a betrayal. "Well, clearly it is not doing that fine if you needed to ask your sister for money," my father said with finality. "Chelsea is just looking out for you, as she always has. Now, let us drop this subject. We do not want to create drama before the wedding." I left the rehearsal dinner shortly after, declining to join the after party at a nearby bar. In my car, I finally allowed the tears to come. Years of being compared, judged, and found wanting crashed over me in waves. I called Zoe, needing to hear a friendly voice. "They will never see me as successful on my own terms," I told her, recounting the evening's events. "No matter what I achieve, Chelsea will always be the standard I fail to live up to." "Then stop trying to meet their standards," Zoe said firmly. "You are successful by any objective measure. In a few days, once the NDA lifts, everyone will know about Meridian. Until then, just hold your head high and know your own worth." I bought an obscenely expensive dress for the reception, I admitted. Zoe laughed. "Good. Wear it proudly. But remember, this is not about showing off wealth. It is about showing them who you really are, a creative, successful woman who does not need their validation anymore." After hanging up, I made two decisions. First, I would return the modest wedding gift I had purchased and instead make a substantial donation to an educational charity in Chelsea and James's names, something they would have to acknowledge publicly. Second, I would arrive at the wedding ceremony in a way that would make it impossible for anyone to ignore my presence. The morning before the wedding, I received a text from Chelsea, final reminder for bridesmaids. Hair and makeup at venue starts at 9 a.m. sharp. Do not be late. Bring your own foundation, since the makeup artist might not have your shade. Another subtle dig, implying I could not afford proper makeup. Little did she know I had already booked my own appointment at an exclusive salon for that morning. The game of perception was about to change dramatically. The morning of Chelsea's wedding dawned bright and clear, a perfect June day that the wedding planner had no doubt been praying for. I woke early, feeling strangely calm after the emotional turbulence of the rehearsal dinner. Instead of heading directly to the country club as instructed, I went to Lumiere, one of Manhattan's most exclusive salons. Chelsea's chosen stylist would have done an adequate job, but I wanted something spectacular, not just the uniform bridesmaid look. We want to create something elegant that will transition beautifully from bridesmaid to evening glamour, I explained to Serena, the master stylist. I will be changing my dress for the reception, but my hair needs to work with both looks. Serena crafted a sophisticated updo with soft tendrils framing my face. More refined than the generic bridesmaid style, but not so dramatic that it would upstage the bride during the ceremony. The makeup artist used subtle contouring and a luminous foundation that made my skin glow without looking overdone. When they finished, I hardly recognized myself. Not because I looked different, but because I looked completely like me, just the most polished, confident version. Back at my apartment, I carefully packed my emerald reception dress in a garment bag, along with the accessories. My phone buzzed with increasingly frantic texts from Chelsea and the other bridesmaids wondering where I was. I responded that I had a last-minute appointment but would arrive in time for the pre-ceremony photos. As I prepared to leave, my phone rang. It was Jordan from Meridian Technologies. Amanda. Great news. The embargo has been lifted a day early. TechCrunch is running their feature on us this afternoon instead of tomorrow. Your branding work is going to be all over the tech press by this evening. My heart raced. That is amazing timing, Jordan. Will the company's social media accounts be going live too? Everything goes live at 2 p.m. Eastern. We will tag you in all the posts, of course. The investors are thrilled with the launch strategy. Gregory Bennett actually mentioned your work specifically in his press statement. This was even better than I had anticipated. The wedding ceremony was scheduled for 4, with the reception beginning at 6. By the time I changed for the reception, news of Meridian would be spreading through the tech world. And anyone curious enough to look me up online would discover my association with the hottest new startup of the year. I arrived at the country club at 1:30, 30 minutes before the scheduled start of pre-ceremony photographs. The parking lot was already filling with luxury vehicles, Mercedes and BMWs and Range Rovers gleaming in the sunlight. Valets in crisp uniforms darted between cars, parking them with practiced efficiency. I had considered renting a high-end car for the day but decided against it. My reliable Honda Civic, though modest, had served me well through the ups and downs of the past year. There was something appropriate about arriving in it one last time, before the world knew about my success. As I pulled up to the valet stand, I noticed the attendants' briefly dismissive glances as they assessed my car. Then they saw me emerge in my perfectly tailored bridesmaid dress, designer sunglasses, and the subtle but unmistakable diamond studs that had been my grandmother's. "Good afternoon, miss," the valet said, his tone noticeably more respectful. "Are you with the bride or groom?" "I am the bride's sister," I replied, handing him my keys with a generous tip. "Amanda Mason." His eyes widened slightly. "Of course, Miss Mason. The bridal party is gathering in the Magnolia Suite. Would you like an escort?" "I know the way, thank you." Walking through the country club's grand entrance, I felt numerous eyes tracking my movement. I recognized several of our extended family members and Chelsea's friends, people who had no doubt heard about my supposed financial ruin. Their expressions ranged from surprise to confusion as they took in my appearance, which clearly did not match the struggling artist narrative they had been fed. The Magnolia Suite was a flurry of activity when I entered. Bridesmaids in various stages of preparation, the photographer arranging equipment, my mother fussing over Chelsea's veil. Everyone froze when I walked in. Chelsea recovered first. "Amanda, where have you been? We have been waiting. The hair and makeup team is already behind schedule because of you." "I took care of my own styling," I replied calmly. I did not want to add to their workload. My mother looked me over with surprise. "You look different." "Thank you," I said, though it had not exactly been a compliment. Chelsea's eyes narrowed as she took in my appearance. I could see her calculating, trying to determine how I had afforded the professional styling that was evident in my look. "Well, now that you are finally here, we need to start photos. Try to follow the photographer's directions this time, unlike at the rehearsal." The next hour passed in a blur of post photographs, last-minute adjustments to dresses, and the arrival of more guests. I played my role perfectly, smiling when appropriate, helping Chelsea with her veil, offering genuine compliments on how beautiful she looked. Because despite our complicated relationship, she did make a stunning bride in her custom designer gown with its cathedral-length train and intricate beading. At 3:30, my phone vibrated in my clutch. A notification from Instagram, @Meridian Tech has tagged you in a post. It was happening. The launch was live. By the time the ceremony began at 4, I had received 6 more notifications from various social media platforms, all related to Meridian's launch. During a quiet moment as guests were being seated, I glimpsed a preview of the TechCrunch article on my phone. The headline read, "Meridian Technologies emerges from stealth with groundbreaking green energy AI and bold new brand identity." The ceremony itself was flawless, exactly as Chelsea had planned. She and James exchanged traditional vows beneath an arch of white roses and greenery. Our father fought back tears as he gave her away. Guests oohed and awed at appropriate moments. I stood dutifully in line with the other bridesmaids, my expression appropriately joyful for the professional photographer. As we processed out after the ceremony, I noticed my cousin Brooke staring intently at her phone, then looking up at me with wide eyes. She had seen something about Meridian. The news was beginning to spread. The cocktail hour that followed was held in the country club's manicured gardens. While the bride and groom finished their formal photographs, guests mingled over champagne and hors d'oeuvres. This was my opportunity to slip away and change for the reception. In the privacy of one of the club's luxurious restrooms, I transformed. Off came the pale pink bridesmaid dress, replaced by the stunning emerald silk that hugged my curves and made my eyes shine. I refreshed my makeup, adding a more dramatic lip color and a touch more highlighter. The final touch was a pair of emerald and diamond drop earrings I had splurged on, my own celebration of how far I had come. When I emerged and walked back toward the cocktail hour, the reaction was immediate. Conversations paused mid-sentence. Heads turned. Glasses stopped halfway to lips. My Aunt Diana actually gasped audibly. "Amanda? Is that you?" I smiled warmly. "Yes, Aunt Diana." Chelsea gave us permission to change after the ceremony. This was not strictly true, but no one would dare question it and risk appearing uninformed about the bride's wishes. As I made my way through the crowd, I could hear the whispers following me. Not malicious now, but confused and curious. How could the supposedly broke sister afford such an obviously expensive dress? Who had styled her hair? Were those real diamonds she was wearing? The confusion only increased when a group of strangers approached me enthusiastically. Jordan, Alicia, and 2 of Meridian's lead engineers had arrived as my guests, just in time for the reception. "Amanda," Jordan called out, embracing me warmly. "The launch is exceeding all expectations. Your branding work is being praised in every article." Gregory Bennett called it revolutionary for the clean tech sector. Chelsea, who had just returned from photos and was making her entrance to the cocktail hour, stopped dead in her tracks as she observed this interaction. Her perfect smile faltered for just a moment as she tried to process what she was seeing. Her supposedly destitute sister being congratulated by well-dressed strangers who were clearly talking about some kind of professional success. As the cocktail hour wound down and guests began moving toward the reception ballroom, I could see Chelsea whispering urgently to James, her eyes darting in my direction. Whatever narrative she had constructed about me was rapidly unraveling, and she knew it. My parents approached me, curiosity evident in their expressions. "Amanda, you changed your dress," my mother said, stating the obvious. "And who were those people you were talking to?" "My clients," I replied simply. "They are the founders of Meridian Technologies. You might be reading about them in the business section tomorrow. Their company just launched today." My father frowned slightly. "I thought you said you were struggling with clients." "I was. For a time. Things change quickly in business, Dad. Just like you always taught us." Before they could ask more questions, the wedding planner announced that everyone should take their seats for the reception. I was directed to table 19, as expected, far from the family table where Chelsea sat with our parents and James's family. What I had not expected was that Jordan, Alicia, and the other Meridian team members would cause such a stir at my assigned table. Within minutes, they were engaged in animated conversations with the other guests, many of whom worked in adjacent industries and were fascinated by Meridian's technology. Throughout the elegant dinner service, I could feel Chelsea's eyes on me from the head table. Her perfect wedding was proceeding exactly as planned, but something had shifted in the atmosphere. The narrative she had carefully constructed about her struggling sister had been visibly contradicted, and people were noticing. The true confrontation, however, was yet to come. The wedding reception was in full swing by 8:30. The 5-course dinner had been served, the champagne was flowing freely, and the band was playing a mix of classics and contemporary hits that kept the dance floor crowded. Chelsea and James had completed their first dance, followed by the traditional father-daughter and mother-son dances. I was enjoying a rare moment of peace at my table, watching this celebration unfold, when my phone lit up with a notification. It was a message from Zoe with a screenshot of a LinkedIn post that had already garnered hundreds of likes. "Proud to announce Meridian Technologies' revolutionary green energy AI platform, featuring brand identity and design by the incomparable Amanda Mason. Her visionary work has elevated our technology and mission in ways we never imagined possible." The post had been shared by Gregory Bennett, one of Silicon Valley's most respected venture capitalists, and included photos of the branding materials I had created. Within minutes, my phone was buzzing constantly with notifications as the post spread through professional networks. My tablemates, who had been increasingly curious about my connection to Meridian throughout dinner, were now openly impressed. "You designed their entire brand identity?" asked Sophia, one of James's cousins who worked in marketing. "Their launch is all over my Twitter feed right now. Everyone is talking about how revolutionary their approach is, both the technology and the branding." Before I could respond, Jordan appeared at our table, champagne glass in hand. "Amanda, we just heard from the investors. The initial response has exceeded projections by 300%. Your brand strategy is being specifically mentioned in most of the coverage." As Jordan spoke, I noticed a hush falling over nearby tables. People were listening, including some of Chelsea's friends who had been privy to her gossip about my financial troubles. "We should toast to your success," Jordan continued, unaware of the attention they were attracting. "The board has approved the expanded equity package we discussed. You are officially Meridian's creative director, with full benefits and stock options that could be worth millions when we go public." The word millions seemed to hang in the air. I saw my Aunt Diana nearly choke on her champagne. Jordan raised their glass. "To Amanda Mason, the creative genius who made our technology beautiful and accessible to the world." My tablemates and the Meridian team joined the toast enthusiastically. From across the room, I could see my parents staring in stunned silence. My father's mouth was literally hanging open. As people returned to their conversations, now buzzing with this new information, I excused myself to visit the ladies' room. As I crossed the ballroom, I was stopped repeatedly by guests who had overheard Jordan's toast and wanted to congratulate me or inquire about Meridian. In the hallway outside the restrooms, I came face to face with Chelsea. She had been heading back to the reception but froze when she saw me. For a moment, neither of us spoke. The background noise of the reception seemed to fade away. "What is going on, Amanda?" she finally asked, her voice tight. "Who are those people? And where did you get that dress?" I took a deep breath. "Those people are my clients, Chelsea. I have been working on a major project that just launched today. The dress I bought myself with money I earned." Chelsea's perfect composure faltered. "But you asked me for a loan. You said you could not make rent." That was true at the time. Things changed. I landed a major client and turned my business around. I was going to tell everyone after your wedding, once the project officially launched. "So all this," she gestured vaguely at my appearance, "is what? Some kind of revenge because I told people you were struggling?" I shook my head. "Not revenge, Chelsea. Just the truth. I did struggle, yes. I took a risk leaving my corporate job. And I hit some rough patches. But instead of supporting me through a temporary setback, you used it as an opportunity to make me look like a failure to everyone we know." Chelsea's eyes filled with tears, though whether from genuine emotion or frustration at losing control of the narrative, I could not tell. "You always do this. You always find some way to make everything about you. This is my wedding day, Amanda. I have not made anything about me. I showed up, performed all my bridesmaid duties, and changed into an appropriate dress for the reception. The only difference is that I do not look like the struggling failure you described to everyone." A tear slipped down Chelsea's cheek, threatening her perfect makeup. "You do not understand the pressure I am under. Everyone expects me to be perfect all the time. The perfect daughter, the perfect wife, the perfect career woman. Do you know how exhausting that is?" This vulnerable admission caught me off guard. In all our years of competition and comparison, Chelsea had never acknowledged the weight of the expectations placed on her. "I do understand pressure, Chelsea. I have felt it my entire life, trying to measure up to you. But the difference is that I finally stopped trying to meet other people's standards and started creating my own." Chelsea dabbed carefully at her eyes, careful not to smudge her mascara. "It was easier when you were struggling. That made sense in the story everyone has about us. Chelsea the successful one, Amanda the creative free spirit who cannot quite get it together. Now, I do not know what my role is supposed to be." The raw honesty of her statement stunned me. For the first time, I saw my sister not as my lifelong competitor, but as someone trapped in a narrative of her own making. "Maybe we do not need to have roles," I suggested gently. "Maybe we can just be sisters who support each other's different paths." Chelsea looked skeptical. "Is that even possible after everything?" "I do not know. But today might be a good day to start trying." A wedding planner appeared in the hallway. "Mrs. Williams, it is time for the cake cutting. Everyone is waiting." Chelsea straightened her shoulders, instantly transforming back into the perfect bride. "We should talk more after the honeymoon," she said, her voice steadier now. "And Amanda, that dress does look stunning on you." She swept back toward the reception, leaving me momentarily speechless at what might have been the first genuine compliment she had ever given me. When I returned to the ballroom, the atmosphere had noticeably shifted. People who had previously avoided eye contact with me were now smiling warmly. Family members who had accepted Chelsea's version of my life without question were watching me with newfound curiosity and respect. As the evening continued, my parents finally made their way to my table during a break in the formal proceedings. "Amanda," my father began awkwardly, "your mother and I just heard the most extraordinary thing about some technology company you are working with." "Meridian Technologies," I supplied. "Yes. I designed their entire brand identity and marketing strategy. The project has been under a confidentiality agreement until today, which is why I could not discuss it earlier." My mother looked confused. "But why did you ask Chelsea for money if you had this opportunity?" Because when I asked her, I was genuinely struggling. The Meridian project came after that, and it changed everything. I tried to tell you both that my business was improving, but you seemed to prefer Chelsea's version of events. My father had the grace to look ashamed. We should have asked you directly instead of relying on second-hand information. I apologize for that, Amanda. We are very proud of you, my mother added, though her tone suggested she was still processing this reversal of the established family dynamic. You must tell us more about this company when things settle down. When the time came for toasts, I found myself unexpectedly called upon as the sister of the bride. I had prepared nothing, assuming Chelsea would have selected someone else for this honor. As I approached the microphone, I saw Chelsea watching me warily, perhaps concerned about what I might say after our confrontation. I raised my champagne glass and smiled at the newlyweds. For those who do not know me, I am Amanda, Chelsea's sister. Chelsea and I have always been different, taking different paths and making different choices. But one thing we share is determination. When Chelsea sets her mind to something, whether it is becoming valedictorian or planning the perfect wedding, she achieves it through hard work and attention to detail. I paused, making eye contact with Chelsea. Today is a testament to that determination. Every element of this celebration reflects Chelsea's vision and James's support of that vision. Their partnership is built on mutual respect and shared goals, which is the foundation of any successful relationship, whether personal or professional. I turned to address the couple directly. Chelsea, James, may your marriage be blessed with both success and the wisdom to define that success on your own terms. May you support each other through challenges and celebrate each other's victories, large and small. And may you always remember that true wealth lies not in appearances or possessions, but in having people in your life who see you for who you really are and love you anyway. I raised my glass higher to Chelsea and James. As the guests echoed the toast and applauded, I caught Chelsea's eye. She mouthed a silent thank you across the room, and for the first time in years, the smile she gave me seemed genuine. In the weeks following Chelsea's wedding, my life transformed in ways I could never have predicted. Meridian Technologies continued to gain traction in the industry, with multiple tech publications featuring their innovative platform and specifically mentioning the brand identity I had created. My phone rang constantly with new business inquiries, many from companies in Meridian's network who had seen my work. 3 weeks after the wedding, I signed the lease on a beautiful new apartment in a doorman building with large windows perfect for natural light. The space was twice the size of my previous studio, with a dedicated office area where I could properly set up my design studio. As I arranged my furniture and hung artwork, I felt a sense of accomplishment that went beyond material success. This space represented independence on my own terms. The equity package from Meridian proved even more valuable than initially projected. Their first round of post-launch funding valued the company at over $200 million, making my shares worth a substantial sum on paper. More importantly, the monthly retainer provided financial stability that allowed me to be selective about which clients I took on, focusing exclusively on projects aligned with my values. 1 month after the wedding, I received an unexpected email from Chelsea. She and James had returned from their honeymoon in the Maldives, and she suggested meeting for coffee to clear the air. I agreed with some trepidation, unsure if our moment of connection at the wedding had been genuine or merely a temporary truce. We met at a quiet cafe halfway between our apartments. Chelsea arrived looking more relaxed than I had seen her in years, dressed in casual clothes rather than her usual corporate attire. Thank you for meeting me, she began after we had ordered. I have been doing a lot of thinking during the honeymoon. About us, about our family dynamics, about the person I want to be in this new chapter of my life. I nodded, waiting for her to continue. I owe you an apology, Amanda. A real one. Not just for the wedding, but for years of. I do not know what to call it. Undermining you? Competing with you? Using your struggles to make myself look better. She sighed deeply. All of it, I guess. The raw honesty in her voice surprised me. What brought this on? Partly what happened at the wedding. Seeing how genuinely happy people were for your success. But mostly conversations with James. He pointed out some patterns in how I talk about you that I had never noticed myself. She looked down at her coffee. He asked me why I felt so threatened by my own sister's happiness. I did not have a good answer. I appreciate the apology, I said carefully. But this pattern has existed our entire lives, Chelsea. What makes you think it can change now? Because I want it to change. I am tired of the person I become around you, always comparing, always competing. It is exhausting, and it does not make me happy. She looked up, meeting my eyes directly. I was jealous of you, Amanda. I have always been jealous of you. I nearly choked on my coffee. Jealous? Of me? Chelsea, you were the golden child. The perfect daughter who could do no wrong. Perfect on paper, she corrected. Perfect transcript, perfect job. Perfect wedding. But you had something I never did. Freedom. Courage to pursue what actually made you happy instead of what was expected. Do you know how much I hated being a consultant? How much I dreaded going to work every day to a job I chose because it looked good on paper. This revelation stunned me into silence. All these years, I had assumed Chelsea's perfect life was exactly what she wanted. I am not saying this to make excuses, she continued. Just to explain. Seeing you take risks, even when they did not immediately pay off, made me question my own choices. It was easier to frame your different path as failure than to admit I might have chosen wrong for myself. What are you going to do about your job now? I asked, genuinely curious. Chelsea smiled slightly. I gave notice last week. James and I talked about it. And he fully supports me taking some time to figure out what I actually want to do, not what will impress our parents or look good on LinkedIn. We spent the next 2 hours talking more openly than we had in our entire adult lives. About our childhood, about our parents' expectations, about the ways we had both been shaped by competition neither of us had consciously chosen. As challenging as that conversation was, it marked the beginning of a healing process long overdue. Chelsea and I began to build a new kind of relationship, one based on mutual respect rather than comparison. We started having dinner together monthly, sometimes with James, sometimes just the two of us. Each meeting became easier, more genuine. The more difficult conversations came with our parents. After much consideration, I invited them to my new apartment for dinner, giving them a chance to see my success firsthand rather than through the filter of family gossip. Their reaction to my beautiful new space and the framed article about Meridian displayed in my office revealed much about our relationship. My father immediately began asking about the financial aspects of my business, as if success could only be measured in dollars. My mother commented repeatedly on how lucky I had been to land such a big client. Over a meal I had carefully prepared, I finally addressed the elephant in the room. I need to ask you both something that I have wondered my entire life. Why was it so hard for you to believe I could be successful on my own terms? My father looked startled. We always supported your creative interests, Amanda. You tolerated them, I corrected gently. But you never valued them the way you valued Chelsea's more conventional achievements. That is not fair, my mother protested. We were simply concerned about your future security. Were you concerned when I won design awards at my corporate job? When I was promoted faster than anyone in company history? Or were those accomplishments less valuable because they did not fit your definition of success? The uncomfortable silence that followed spoke volumes. I am not asking this to make you feel guilty, I continued. I just want us to be honest with each other going forward. I want you to see me for who I actually am, not who you wished I would be. That dinner marked the beginning of a shifting dynamic with my parents as well. The change was slower, less dramatic than with Chelsea, but over time, I noticed small differences. My father asking questions about my creative process rather than just my profit margins. My mother sharing an article about design thinking she had read, showing interest in my world. As my business continued to thrive, I established a scholarship fund for art students at my alma mater, specifically for those pursuing unconventional career paths. Helping others follow their own unique vision became my way of transforming my experience into something positive for the next generation. 6 months after the wedding, I was featured in a business magazine as one of the designers reshaping the tech industry. The article included a photo of me in my studio, wearing the emerald dress from Chelsea's wedding reception. When the magazine was published, Chelsea was the first person to text me congratulations. The greatest lesson from this journey was not about success or vindication. It was about authenticity. For years, I had measured myself against Chelsea's yardstick, feeling inadequate when my path looked different from hers. The turning point came not when I achieved financial success, but when I embraced my own definition of fulfillment. True freedom came from releasing the need for external validation. From my parents, from Chelsea, from society at large. Success is not defined by job titles or bank accounts or even recognition in your field. Success is waking up each morning with purpose, doing work that matters to you, and surrounding yourself with people who value the authentic you. If you are watching this and struggling with family expectations or comparisons, remember that your path does not need to look like anyone else's to be valid and worthy. Your timeline is your own. Your definition of success is yours to create. My name is Amanda Mason, and my story is not about revenge or proving others wrong. It is about proving myself right, about trusting my instincts and valuing my unique gifts, even when those closest to me could not see their worth. That is a victory far sweeter than any moment of vindication. Have you ever had to redefine success on your own terms? How did you handle family members who did not understand your choices? Share your experiences in the comments below. And if this story resonated with you, please like, subscribe, and share it with someone who might need to hear that their different path is just as valid as the conventional one. Thank you for listening to my journey, and remember, the most important approval will always be your own.